As you know, the Oakland Raiders finished their presentation before the National Football League Stadium and Finance Committee meeting, and their meeting today in Boca Raton. And my intention, I'm at San Francisco International Airport right now. My intention was to do a live stream, but the connection is just not as good as I thought it was going to be. So I'm going to do this vlog based on some calculations that I made on the flight from Atlanta to here. I did not go to the meeting for personal reasons, as many of you know, but we were all updating each other as to what was going on in the meeting thanks to NFL Public Relations. Anyway, the bottom line is, if you follow the story, you know this. The idea of the Raiders is to replace the $650 million that Sheldon Adelson took out or removed from the deal. You know, he's the person who owns the Venetian, the Macau. And the question was how are the Raiders going to do that? Mark Boudin and Mark Davis brought in representatives from Bank of America. Now, there's no signed deal that Bank of America is actually going to handle the financing yet. But even with that, there's a problem. Adelson, as I explained before, was basically giving them $650 million of free money. It was an angel investment. He wanted some return on it, but there was nothing that was set in stone. This is different. So you're looking at, let's say, 7% interest on a bond issue of 30 years for $650 million at $738 million. And if the Raiders wanted to achieve that low interest rate, what they would have to do is go on their knees, quite literally, to Clark County and to the Stadium Authority and say, hey, you know, we'd like for you to float this bond on our behalf. To which the Stadium Authority and the county would say, well, can you show us a revenue stream that promises a 1.5 to 1 debt coverage ratio, which means they would have to show that the project is going to be able to produce $1.107 billion over a 30-year period. The only way they can do that is to have 200 luxury boxes at $200,000 each. And let's say that 100% of those luxury boxes sold out over that 30-year period. That's what you would get, $1.107 billion. Even with that, if the luxury box is sold out, I apologize, it would be $1.2 billion. The debt coverage hurdle rate is $1.107 billion. So that leaves them about $98 million more from that. Now, the situation the Raiders are in is that they could not use any of the luxury box revenue for their desires. The stadium lease proposal they submitted called for the Raiders to have 100% of the luxury box revenues. They weren't giving up a dime. Not a dime, okay? So now they're in a situation where a revenue stream that they once thought was for themselves will have to be committed to, earmarked for the retirement of a bond. So let's say that Bank of America turns around and says, well, look, we'll give you a favorable interest rate. You don't have to worry about a debt coverage ratio. Still, if the Raiders sold out 60% of the luxury suites, 200 luxury suites at $200,000 each, then, sorry, I've got the PA system going behind me here, then that means that they would earn about $724 million, which would be less than the $738 million they need. So according to my calculations, they would need to sell 61.5% of the total number of luxury suites at that offering. Again, 200 luxury suites at $200,000 average. There's nothing in the history of Las Vegas to indicate that that market, which is basically just over 1/4 the size of the Bay Area's market, could sustain that kind of demand. Nothing. And there's another problem. Bank of America would want collateral, which means that the Raiders would have to put up the stadium or some part of it. The Raiders do not own any part of the stadium. It's written in the legislation that Clark County owns it, not the Raiders, not the NFL team. So that's another huge problem. So as you can see, by inviting in Bank of America, the Raiders have created more problems for themselves than they had before. Oh, and then there's the other problem with the stadium events company. From the Raiders' perspective, the stadium events company should be started by, and it should be one person, the Stadium Authority. The Stadium Authority views it entirely differently. They want the Raiders and the developer to start the stadium events company, which is supposed to be a separate corporation. The reason is that the Stadium Authority doesn't want to get stuck with any potential losses from stadium operations, and neither do the Oakland Raiders. So that still has to be worked out. This is one big mess. They're better off just staying put here. The Fortress and Ronnie Lott, who gave the presentation, I understand did a great job. Stay tuned. And I'll have the live stream on tomorrow night at the usual time.